Hi Not Board Gamers, and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now in today's episode I'm going to be looking at a game which I've been really excited about playing for a long time. And that game is the Ghosts Betwixt, designed by Dustin Freund and published by Innocent Traveller Games. Now this game came out on Kickstarter, or was put on Kickstarter about a year or so ago, and it's going to be shipped to backers in about the next month or so. Dustin was really kind to send me a kind of pre-production copy, hot off the press, so I could have a look at the game, as I've been in quite a bit of dialogue with Dustin over the last year or so just about how excited I am about the game itself. Now, if you're looking for a playthrough on the game, then please go and check out Ben Dittler's Meet Me at the Table channel, where he does a playthrough of some of the missions there. Obviously, from my videos, it's more of an in-depth review rather than a playthrough, so if you want more details on how the game plays in a bit more depth, then go and check out Ben's excellent Meet Me at the Table channel. But for this video, what we're going to do is we're going to have a deep delve into the Ghosts Betwixt. So what is the Ghost Betwixt? Well, the Ghost Betwixt is an old school dungeon crawling RPG experience where you, playing 4 family members, are going to kind of work your way through this adventure as you journey through this really involving, fantastically well laid out story, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a wee while. Upgrading your characters, fighting bad guys, fighting monsters, finding secrets, unlocking new abilities, keeping track on your family members' sheets as well, and adding new equipments and finding new accessories and beefing up your character into this emergent dynamic story kind of unfolds in front of you. It really is a fantastic, almost all-encompassing RPG experience. So one thing I do want to say is this is a kind of production test copy. So these components are by no means final, or not all of them are by no means final. There's some excellent components that you'll see. I know Dustin has made some tweaks in component quality since this came through, and certainly before he pressed the button for production. Okay, so what is the Ghost Betwixt? Well, as I mentioned, it's this wonderful, emergent, dynamic story. And when I say fantastic, I mean it's one of the few campaign games where the story absolutely really works. You feel really involved in it. And you're going to play these 4 family members in this very diverse family, which is just absolutely fantastic, as you go in search of one of your brothers, Richie, who's gone missing in this kind of house of terror, this Halloween house of terror, where everything may not be as it seems. And there are a number of ways that you're going to get into the story. The best way to go is to go through this kind of quick start guide and look at this fantastic looking artwork. Do not be fooled into thinking because the artwork looks this way that it's a lightweight game. It's not. It's a really pretty involved RPG. But you're going to go through the kind of quick play guide, and you also have your mission guides as well. Now, this version of the game comes with 9 missions. That's 9 missions. And I know Dustin is also working on Chapter 2, so let's effectively call this Chapter 1. He's working on Chapter 2. These 9 missions are going to take you somewhere in the region of around about 25 hours to complete 9. So there's loads of playability in there. And this mission guide is fantastic because what it does, it sets up each mission, tells you how to set up, continues the story, as well as kind of starting the story at the beginning for you as well. So it tells you how things happen there, and the kind of first thing that happens in the story. And one of the most interesting things that I've certainly found in one of the books, let me see if I can find it, is the fact that Dustin has put a lot of the backers' names into the books themselves. Now, I don't know if you can see, obviously, the most important backer's name, which is this one just here. Oh, my lights are reflecting. There we go. I mean, obviously, I'm the most important backer, but yes, there are backers' names throughout the book and on tiles in the game, or throughout the books and on tiles in the games. So yeah, you are going to go on this adventure where you are going to enter, as these 4 family members enter into this house looking for your brother, but I absolutely guarantee you that things are not as they seem. So what do you get inside your box of the Ghosts Betwixt? Well, there is a lot. Say that the box, it's only kind of the standard box size, and again, I just want to show you that artwork. I think what's on that box there just absolutely kind of captures the essence of the game. You've got kind of the 4 family members, Bill, Joan, Maddox, and Aveline, sneaking past the house there as fiendish eyes look out from them. But there is a surprising amount of content in the box itself. Now, but the game board is a modular tile-based system, and you can see you've got these wonderful double-sided tiles that are used here. And each mission tells you which tiles are going to be used, and there are some that are going to be almost secret tiles that you that you will use in the mission as well. Great thing for people that don't like miniatures is there are no miniatures in this game. There are standees, so there we go. We can see Aveline's standee there. You can see from the picture I'm showing you right now just a range of monster standees, and each character, each family member has its own standee. So there's Bill, there's Maddox, I've shown you Aveline already, and here's Joan there. And there are other standees as well. As I say, all the monsters are represented by standees. There are tokens in this game. It's a largely token-driven game, and there are a lot of tokens in this game. Each one makes sense, and each mission will tell you which tokens you need to use to kind of set up that particular mission. And you will also use some tokens on your individual player boards as well. And here we go. You can see Joan's individual player board here. It tells you where things are going to be held, so what goes in her hand, what her equipment items are, what's stuff that you can put on your feet, on your chest, on your head maybe, and what ammos and accessories are. And you can upgrade your characters as you go along. So what I've done is I printed off the character sheets, and there you go. You see Joan. I printed off and laminated, and I used a felt pen to kind of keep track of my characters on there. There are also lots of cards as well. There are your objective cards here, which kind of detail all the missions for you as you go through them and what you have to achieve on each mission. There are your baddie cards, and these tell you how you're going to fight. There are items decks, there are equipment decks, there are drop decks, there are various numbers of cards that you'll use to drive the story forward. One of the key things, though, and I know I mentioned it already, is this mission book. Now, I believe that this is going to be bound differently in the production copies that Kickstarter backers are going to be getting. And I say this is just utterly wonderful. Each mission is fully structured in here. It kind of flows on from the previous mission. It has branching narratives and branching storylines. It has hidden rooms. It has investigations. Your entire adventure is contained within this book. Resist the urge to jump forward in this book. Just go with the flow of the game, because this will tell you absolutely everything. As I mentioned also, as well as the mission book, you get a quick start guide, which is really, really, really useful. And that tells you kind of how to set up the first mission and test the waters, if you like. And it's also got some icons on the back. But also you get a really handy rules reference as well. Not only is this in an order which makes sense and is logical as it talks through the various phases that you go through in the game, it's also got an index in the back. Hallelujah. So many rules reference books and rules books do not have indexes. Dustin's taken the time to absolutely include an index in there. And that's it. There's a lot of content in this relatively small box. Oh, or is that it? No. You see, it's not, because I'm missing out one of the key things. This is largely a dice-driven game. Most of your actions, when it comes to combat, and essentially it is a combat-based RPG, are going to be dictated by dice, where you spawn monsters. How successful you are in your combat, where certain things happen, certain tests that you will do, be it a strength test or another test that you can do, they're going to be dice-driven. What Dustin did, and he contacted me about this when he was going through this. He knows I'm a huge Too Many Bones fan. He went to the same manufacturer that Chip Theory Games went to, and he had some dice made. And you can see that these are these wonderful heat transferred dice. They are just absolutely fantastic, and there are a lot of dice in this game. As I say, it's mainly a dice-based game. There are some D6s, there's a D4, there's a D8, but most of the time you're going to be using these multicoloured heat transferred dice, which are absolutely fantastic. A little bit smaller than the Too Many Bones ones, and that's good, because they don't need to be as big as the Too Many Bones ones, because you're going to be rolling quite a handful of them each and every time for your attack moves, for the creature's defense moves, and vice versa for their attack moves and your defense moves. And you will upgrade which dice you use, and there's a nice colour-based system. As things get stronger, as you get potentially stronger weapons, and you can understand which dice have a better chance of hitting or causing more damage or doing various things, because each of the dice are multi-use as well. So really, really good quality dice, which is really, really important for a dice-driven game. And that is it. That is kind of the main stuff that you get inside the box of the Ghosts Betwixt. Now, there's also something hidden under the insert, and you're not allowed to look at that until a certain prompt in the mission guide tells you to look at that, whatever is under that insert. I will tell you exclusively that under that insert you have... I'm not going to tell you that. Of course I'm not going to tell you that. You're going to have to play the game to find out. So, how do you play the Ghosts Betwixt? So I'm kind of setting the game up as is shown in the quick play guide, although I've skipped a couple of steps. For example, one of the first things you will do for each of your family members, Father Bill, Mother Joan, Brother Maddox and Sister Adeline, is choose your starting equipment using a rather ingenious way that's explained in the rules reference book, which allocates a certain amount of time per item that you're allowed to pick up. So I've done that, and I've kind of put the four family members on the starting tile, and there's a number of tiles that you will choose for each adventure, and this is clearly kind of stated in the rules, in the mission guide book, which is this book here, and also in this quick start guide as well. And it tells you here that we're going to need map tiles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see I've got those there, and it then gives me a number of different tokens that I'm going to need as well. There are 5 door tokens, 1 locked door token, 3 random treasure tokens, an ambush token, 2 surprise tokens, monster tokens 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and 2 different types of trap tokens for each. So those are all put there as well. And then what we do is we're going to kind of shuffle all of these map tokens together to create a random map token pile, and then all of these tokens together, and there should be 3 of these tokens for every one of those map tokens. So I'll just do that now, and then we'll come back and have a look at it a little bit further. So there we go. You can see that I've got all of the map tokens there, and I've got a door token at either side of this room where the openings are, and my 4 family members are all in there. So now it's time to start my adventure. Now each mission on in the game, let's say there are 9 in this particular box, comes with a number of objective cards, and for mission 1 we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different objective cards, and you have to work through those in order to kind of complete the mission. It says here, my objective for this first part of mission 1 is to find the door to the basement. Now, remember, somewhere in that stack there is a locked door token, and that once that comes out, that will then be the door to the basement. So it's pretty divergent and emergent in how that happens. During the drawing phase, draw a locked door token, place the locked door token into a plastic base, blah blah blah, put it there, and complete the spawning phase or fighting phase if applicable, and I'll explain how they work in a bit. And then when that's complete, you're going to flip it over and carry out the stuff on the back and move on to the next objective. So there are a number of objective points each mission to absolutely do. Now, the game itself is broken down into a number of phases. If you're in a room like this, basically you're on your own, there's nothing else around there, what you can do is you can investigate in that room. You can see some grid lines on there. They don't really matter for the investigation. What you will do is choose a family member. They will then pay 1 focus point, and these are these purple tokens that they have on there, to roll a number of d6 dice equal to the maximum amount of focus points they've got. So say for example, we chose Joan because she starts the game with 6 focus points. So we're going to pay a focus point. There we go. It's going to be paid. So she's now got 5, and I'm going to roll 66 dice. And then the number of 6s that I get as a success or successes, and the number of 6s dictate what happens from this investigation. And here we go. We got 1 6 there out of 66s. So then we go to the mission guide, and we have a look at the investigations page. And here we go. We're on tile 1A, and it says here, if I didn't get any, I would splash my face with questionable water trickling from the faucet. Your face burns and you're ready for a fight. I lose 1 health point and gain 1 light green die for my next fight. However, I got 1. I catch a glimpse of my condition. No, I don't. I catch a glimpse of my confident self in a grime mirror. I gain my focus point back and 1 light green die, which is really, really good. So that focus point comes back to me, which is this here, and I'll just show you on Jones what happens here. You can see that there are a number of tokens here. We've got the health, we've got the fame points, we've got a kind of active ability. We have some of the starting items here, and these tokens here are kind of her attack and also her defense here. So because I'd got 1 on that investigation, that allowed me to then move that light green token on 1. That means when I'm going to attack, I get a light green dice as a base die. I get the light green from my weapon up here, and I also get a one-time use until that gets knocked back of another light green. That gives me 3 light green die. So investigating rooms becomes really, really, really important. You can get some nice bonuses and some nice equipment. Right, let's go back to the main game. So the game is effectively a game of exploration, investigation and progressing those storylines for the objectives. And it takes place over a number of phases, and you can see there are 4 phases here. We have the exploring phase, we have the drawing phase, we have the spawning phase, and then the fighting phase. So we're just in the exploration phase. We're in a room, there's no monsters there. I've explored and I've investigated, and that's fine. And now I need to kind of initiate the drawing phase, and to do the drawing phase what we're going to do is move all our family members adjacent to a particular door. So I put all the map tokens here, let's move them all over there. This positioning can become really important as you progress through the game. You'll find out that some of your characters have strengths and abilities, which means that you want to put them at the front, or maybe they're a little bit weaker from some combat that they've had, so you want to put them at the back to protect them, because what we do now is we're going to reveal and unveil that next room. So now we go to the drawing phase, and we remove the draw token, we draw a map token, and we place a relevant map tile, and then we draw fate tokens. And what you do every time you unveil a room or reveal a room, you remove that draw token, you take 1 map token, and the top 3 in order the top 3 in order action tokens there. So what we'll do is we'll just take those top 3, and ideally you pull them off one at a time, but I'll just do that. The first thing we're going to do is have a look at which map tile it is, and because I've shuffled them all up, you don't know, and that's how each time you play a game it's going to be ever so slightly different. And there you go, you see I've got map tile number 3. So what we'll do is we'll take map tile number 3, and these are double-sided, so we've got 3A and 3B. I know from setting this up that that these are all 3A, and you can see there are these black areas here. These are your doors, if you like, and you can orient the map any which way that you want. So let's just put it, for the sake of argument, that way. So there we go. And you can see we're now into the room now. So I'll just move that back into centre shot a little bit, just pan out a bit. And you can see that we've now got that. The next thing we're going to do now is we're going to unveil these 3 tokens, or reveal these 3 tokens that we took out when we revealed the room. So as I say, it's 3 tokens every time you reveal a room. And we'll see what they do, and you do them in order. So the first one is, oh, look at that, it's a bad guy token. This means I have to find bad guys number 1. Now, each mission has assigned different bad guys to different numbers, and if we go into mission number 1 in the mission guide here, it tells me that the number 1 baddies are, there we go, number 1 baddies is a Bennett lackey, so I have to set a Bennett lackey up, right? So let's set my first bad guy up. Okay, so tile number 1, as per the mission guide, bad guy number 1 says it's a Bennett lackey. So there we go. But where do I put him in this room? Well, you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares going that way and 6 squares going that way. So what I do is I grab a D8 or a D10 and just use the first 8 of those, and a D6. The D8 is going to tell me which way, so that's going on number 2 up, so I'll do 1, 2, and then the D6 is going to go 2 across, so he's going to go 1, 2, 1, 2. My Bennett lackey is going to go just there. I'll put him facing that way so you can see him. Ideally I'll put him facing the family members, and that's where that bad guy goes. But how else do I set him up? Well, the next thing I'm going to do is get the Bennett lackey card out of these cards here, and here we go. We can see that Bennett lackey card is just there. What's his health? Let's just go through this card. So first of all, he has 6 hit points. That means he's got health of 6. His speed is 5. So that means he can move 5 squares towards his prey. His range is 4. So if he gets a ranged weapon, then he can attack from 4 away. He's going to use 2 light green die and a light yellow die as a minimum when he attacks, and he's going to defend with 1 tan coloured die. His agility is 1, and that means that I must get at least 1 success when I try and battle him to then try and inflict damage. If I do beat him, I get 3 experience points and also 1 Bennett book, and that's the kind of monetary value throughout the game. And here we go. It tells you down here that he has 1 poison damage, and if he gets 2 of these symbols, these diamond symbols, on his dice rolls, then he will roll another yellow die and take the higher roll as well, and also stumble 1 if he hits. That will knock me back 1 as well. So that's kind of the how his card is. But who does he attack? Well, excuse me. In this bag, I have a number of tokens for each family member. There we go. We can see them. So when you pull a card out, and if it's one baddie, it's fairly straightforward. You just pull a random token out, and there we go. He's going to go to attack Mom Joan. That's Joan is there. Now, if there were 2 Bennett lackeys on the board, what I would do is I would pull another one out, and I would put that there. There we go, excuse me. You can see it could be Joan again, so both of them could be going for Joan, or maybe I'd chosen Evelyn instead, and that would be there. And that gives you a target for it. However, there's only 1 Bennett lackey. The final thing I want to do for the Bennett lackey is give him 6 health. Because, of course, we need to know his starting health, so we can start battling that and knocking that back down. So he's set up on the board now. We know there's a Bennett lackey that I'm going to be fighting at least 1, depending on what else is in these other tokens as well. There could be more, and he's going to gun for Joan as well here. Okay, so that's that token done. The next token is a door token. That's good. So we put that token on there, and you can see there's a door up there, so that's all right. And then the final one is, oh, it's another door token. Actually, this works out really well. Because what we have now is we have 2 potential ways for the map to go on the next exploration phase once I've finished the battling phase. And this is really good now. So we take these map tokens, and you can see there's 6 here left, and we put half on one and half on the other. And then what we do is we then split this block, 1, 2, there we go. I'll just do this manually, 1 second. And it's half and half on each one, basically. So there we go, that can go there, and that can go there. And look at that, suddenly we have a dynamic map. All these tokens which we kind of knew were going in together are now being split up, because if I go this way, it's these map tokens, if I go that way, it's those map tokens, and you have the various tokens that go with it. In amongst these 2 stacks is that one singular locked door token. Suddenly you can see that my adventure now has got a branching narrative. More about that in a bit. Let's go into combat. Okay, before we talk about combat, I just want to pick up on the relative kind of brilliant dynamic that's in play so far. So, you may, from initially looking at the Ghosts Betwixt, be fooled into thinking that it's a relatively straightforward kind of entry-level RPG, and to a certain degree it is, but you can see there's already a lot of kind of factors to it, a lot of divergent and emergent gameplay, and you can see this kind of branching narrative that the map's got. Suddenly, it belies the kind of cutesy exterior that the artwork gives, and I love the artwork. I think the artwork is absolutely spot on for this. It makes you want to play the game, but you can see that you've now got this branching narrative happening. You've got the ability to investigate and beef up your characters throughout the individual mission, as well as levelling up as well at certain points when you rack up enough experience points. But also you then have the positional play. You can see how the bad guys are going to be spawned onto the map, and let me tell you that as we get into combat and as you get more and more into combat, positional play is absolutely key in this game. But as you can see already, we're only 1 room into this, and suddenly the story has diverged and we can go one of 2 ways, or maybe we'll have to do both of them to fully explore this adventure. Right, let's get back to combat. So I mentioned there are kind of 4 phases, but we're already kind of going through them fairly quickly. We've done the exploration phase, which meant we investigated that first room. We've done the drawing phase because we decided which way we were going to go, and therefore we drew, we removed the door, we kind of unveiled the map, we did the tokens, etc. We did the spawning phase, and that is where we activated those fate tokens, and now we're in a combat situation, which is the fighting phase. So this is where the meat and potatoes of the game is. It is inherently a combat game, and that's where these wonderful kind of heat printed die are used to maximum effect. So as we look here, the first thing that's going to happen is every character is going to get a kind of a pre-fighting phase action, and this allows them to either kind of increase their combat dice or take a defensive, increase their defensive stance. So if we look on, say, Joan's map here, Joan's board here, we already know from that investigation she did, she got 1 additional light green die. She has her base defense here is 1 tan die. She also gets a light green die as a base attack, plus a light green die for that weapon that she's got there. Now, this Bennett lackey is going to attack Joan. That means it's going to zero in on Joan if it can get to Joan. So I want to try and beef my defence up as much as possible. So for Joan, I'm going to give her an additional tan die, and this only happens once. If you don't use it by the end of your turn, you lose that. For everybody else, for every other character, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them an additional light green die, an attack die, to give me the best opportunity to kind of take out this Bennett lackey, if you like. So Joan is going to have the best chance because she's got the additional die anyway from her investigation, but also have the best defence. We know he's gunning for Joan, and everybody else is going to kind of try and take them out. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to choose Joan as my figure. Now, this is where it gets interesting, you see. There's only one character on the board, or one Bennett lackey on the board, and there we go. That's that Bennett lackey there. If there were more, they would be numbered. So this would be number 1, this would be and the next one would be number 2, number 3, and number 4, etc. And what happens is your family member's going to go first, okay, and do whatever they do. And then all of the baddies who are numbered 1, and there could be multiple number 1 baddies for if you draw out numbers of cards, they will all go. Then your second family member will go. Then all of the baddies numbered 2 will go as well. And so it goes on, and so you get this real back and forth happening. And what happens is that, you know, it may well be that there's only 2 baddies, or 2 types of baddies on there, a 1 and a 2. So that means that your third and fourth family members will go without a baddie going between them, because it's all done sequentially. Anyway, we've only got 1 on the board, and that's his Bennett lackey. And say his face there, ideally that way. So what we're going to do is Joan gets a number of actions. She's done her pre-fighting action, but what she wants to do is now go and attack him. Joan's got a melee weapon, which is this, her little horsey putter. There we go, look at that, it's nice. Yeah, and she gets some diamonds on her rolls, it does additional things. But she's got to be next to the Bennett lackey to do that. So she has a speed of 5, which means she can move 5. So she can move to this Bennett lackey. So, however, it's a really clever thing here. She can move to the back of him and blindside him if he wants. We know he's facing this way. Positional play absolutely counts in this game. I can't say that enough. It is a game where your success is dependent not only on the abilities that you got and the weapons that you got, but how you position your guys. So Joan's going to move. Let's say she moves to here just to move next to him. Then we're going to attack this guy. So first of all, we look at her base there, and that's a light green die. We also look here. She's got another light green die. We knock that back, so that's 2 light green dies. And up here for her weapon, she's got a third light green die. So she's going to roll 3 light green dies. And then here we can see that there is there are two icons here. The left one is for melee, the right one is for range weapons, so strength and accuracy. She's going to use a dark yellow one for strength, and that's one of these guys here. So if she hits, she is going to do whatever damage comes out on there. The Bennett lackey has a tan die, but however, one thing I didn't do is if we look here, some of them have this little card here, and it says here that we draw a humanish card for him. I forgot about this. So there we go. We're going to draw this, and this gives him a weapon. Not all characters have this. Some of them do. Some have humanish, some have beastly, some don't have it at all. And this means for his attack, he's going to draw a light blue die as well when he attacks, but we'll come back onto that in a sec. So all we know is his defense is a tan die. So there we go. They've got all the dice that we're going to roll there for this attack. We have 3 light green die for Joan, plus the dark yellow die, which is kind of a damage die, and then the defense die for here. What we're looking at for Joan is we want to get these kind of star symbols, basically. If I get 1 or more of those star symbols, then I hit him, and I will do whatever damage is involved, is rolled from this die. If I don't get them, then I don't do any damage. However, this defense die has a number of things. First of all, evade, so he will evade a singular attack there. Then we've got a shield, that will reduce the damage by 1 point. We've got some quarter and half stuff, and that's if some cards provide maybe half measure or half abilities or 3/4 abilities, and if you roll those can top it up for you. And then we have this one, which allows him to refocus. Effectively what he will do, if that one rolls for him, he will choose another family member to attack, and then there are some blank dice face as well. So we're going to roll all these die and see if Joan does her attack with her little horsey putter. Let's just see here. I'm kind of nervous, because I will tell you, the dice are brutal. Okay, so this is good. It's not what it is, and it isn't actually. No, in fact, it's terrible. It's terrible. What Joan has done is she rolled 3 halves, okay? Remember, she needs 1 full hit to get him, so that means she's effectively hit him, which is great because his defense die has only come back with a quarter shield, which is no good for him. However, total hits that she's done is 0, so she's hit him and done no damage. However, let's have a look and see if another dice roll would have worked out any better for her. There we go. This is slightly better here. So what we got here is we have 1 hit here plus 1 half hit. Remember, she only needs 1 hit, so that half is lost. So that's that done there. So she's hit him. That die has come up with nothing. We've done 1 damage, so we can take 1 damage away from the Bennett Lackey because we had that 1 hit, which is minimum agility. We can take 1 health away from him. But also he's got this here, which means he then retargets. So what we do now is we delve back into the bag and we pull out a new target. So maybe he's not going to attack Joan now, and he's not. He's going to go for Bill instead, Joan's husband. Okay? So that's that done. I say we could have gone with the first one where no damage done, but this kind of illustrates it a little bit better. Now, had Joan rolled any of these symbols, these diamond symbols here, they would have then activated whatever's on her card here. So you can see she could have chosen here either a damage one or a stumble one had that diamond symbol been rolled. But it hadn't, okay? So that's Joan's first attack done, and in reality it wasn't great. She did 1 damage against the Bennett Lackey. Okay, so now we move on to him because our first family member's gone. Only one baddie on the board, and therefore they go after that first family member. And now we're going to do the Bennett Lackey attack. We know here that he's got a speed of 5 and he's going to try and get Bill. Well, look at this. Bill is actually there. He's exposed there. So he's going to move 1, 2 to get next to Bill. Look at that. He's positioned himself next to 2 of the family members, and that's good, but he's going to go for Bill. And let's have a look at what this guy's going to roll. Then he's going to roll 2 light greens and a light yellow. So 2 light greens and a light yellow for his hit, which is one of these dice here. But also, if you look over here, he's going to roll a light blue die as well. So that's those. Over on Bill's chart, which you may not be able to see, his defense is this here, is a brown die. And that's what Bill's going to get to do. He's going to defend himself with a brown die, which is slightly stronger than a tan. So for the Bennett Lackey's attack, what's going to happen here is he's going to try and attack Bill using all these. Let's see what happens. Okay, right. So first of all, he got 2 hits, which is not good because, of course, that means he's hit Bill there. He's also done 1 damage, which is that there. So first of all, we take a health away from Bill because he got a damage. Why? Because Bill didn't block anything. His brown die came up blank. Had it got that on, it would have blocked one of those damage, but it didn't. So that's not good. Also, what's happened is because the Bennett Lackey has hit, he's going to stun Bill back 1. That means he's going to knock him back 1. And look, the Bennett Lackey got 2 diamonds, which means he rolls another light yellow and he takes a higher roll. Oh my god. So we know that was on 1, so we roll the light yellow again. It's actually 2, so Bill has taken 2 damage. And he's stumbled 1, and that means he's going to get knocked back 1. So let's move him out that way because, of course, he couldn't stumble back into Maddox. And there we go. That's the first attack from the Bennett Lackey. He's switched target, he's gone to Bill, and then Bill's taken a bit of a beating there. Okay? So, as you can see, the dice aren't always friendly to you. However, Joan's gone first, so we flipped her active token over, so that's gone there. The Bennett Lackey's gone, and that means all my 3 remaining family members now get to go. So maybe Maddox goes next with a range shot, and we'll follow a similar protocol as we did with Joan there, in the fact that he will kind of use a light green, a green, a dark green, and a light blue to attack him, along with a dark yellow to find out what hits are there. He will still roll his tan die, and we'll see what happens. And that continues until the baddie is completed. When they are defeated, what happens is you then get the benefits of beating the Lackey. So, if you look on the card, we have these here, which are the experience points and the Bennett books. All family members that are still standing all get the experience points. Every family member will get 3 experience points. Whoever defeated the bad guy, and generally what you would do is you put it on, say Joan defeated him, it would go on Joan's card. they get the additional value of that as well. So she would get 6, every other family member would get 3, and she would also get 1 Bennett book for defeating him. However many kind of bad guys that you get once you defeated them all, however many tokens were drawn for bad guys once you defeated them all, you're going to then draw from the drop deck, and this gives additional bonuses here. So for example, let's just find a decent one. Yeah. So if you drew from the drop deck after you defeated the bad guys, and you got this one, it says draw ones from the brown equipment deck. This is great because this would then allow the family to potentially get some new weapons or something new in equipment. And look at that, we've got a crude slingshot there. Well, that's from the starter one. The full equipment deck is here. There we go. So the brown equipment deck is all this. There we go. And this gets added to throughout the game. Crude slingshot. There we go. And we could assign that to somebody, and suddenly they've got a slightly better weapon. And that's how that particular part of the game goes. All the family members will then move in here. They will do an investigation in there, roll the dice, spend a focus point, roll the dice, find out what happens, and then decide which path they're going to go. All the family members stay on the same tile, so you don't necessarily split them up to find new rooms. They will all go in one direction until you completed your objectives or be knocked out in the process. And I think you can see that I'm genuinely excited by this game. That's quite a whistle-stop tour because I'm kind of skimming over some of the deeper elements of the game. You see, this storyline is utterly fantastic and engaging. You're in search of your brother Richie, and you're encountering all these monsters and ghoulies and bad guys throughout the adventure in each individual mission, which takes place over a number of objectives, which is really, really, really good. There is the ability to upgrade your characters and level up your characters, get experience points, get weapon proficiency points, earn money, spend that money. And that is a really exciting element. The more you play of this game, the more you get out of the game. I think there's just so much happening in this game that I think if you had looked at it initially and you thought, it looks a little bit cutesy, you'd be wrong-footed ever so slightly, because there is a real depth of adventure here. I think what Dustin has done is created something that is, whilst not necessarily unique, gives almost a unique feeling when you play it. It's kind of old school in the fact that it's proper dungeon crawling. You're unveiling rooms, you're unveiling bad guys, you're battling bad guys, you're upgrading your characters and trying to finish the 9 missions and the ultimate quest in this chapter 1. There is just so much to like about this game. I lay it out and I know I'm in for maybe 2 hours of an absolute blast as this wonderful Stranger Things meets, I don't know, Scooby-Doo type adventure unfolds in front of my very eyes. I am so bought in to the storyline here. I think there's just, things like these wonderful heat printed dice are just absolutely fantastic. They're a joy to roll, irrespective of most times the results don't work out for you. The sheer number of monsters and bad guys you can fight against, and the fact that it is standees. I love minis. This game works so much better for being standees. Part of me kind of thinks, God, I wish there were standees here. I wish there were minis here. But standees work absolutely fantastic for it as well. The quick play guide, or the quick play guide, is really, really good, really intuitive, nice and easy to follow as you set up the game. And there are a lot of rules, but it makes it nice and easy to overcome the rules. So there is so much going on for this game that I think you have an utterly wonderful adventure. I'm ever so slightly biased. As I say, Dustin and I have been talking for the best part of a year about this game, and he was very kind and very eager to send me over a copy, even though I'm a Kickstarter backer, that I can have a look at this. So I may feel slightly biased, and I think you need to take that into consideration. However, on the side of fairness, as much as I love this game and it appeals for me, let's discuss kind of what doesn't quite work and what may not make it appeal to you. Okay, so it's obvious that I really, really, really love this game. I think it is a fantastic adventure. I think what Dustin's done as a first-time designer and a first-time publisher is create something that is way above the scope of many, many other designers and publishers that I've seen. However, I do understand I do have a slight bias here. As I say, I've been kind of speaking with Dustin for about a year now on this game, and I was very excited when he offered to send me this kind of pre-production copy through. So I'm looking at this kind of objectively as well. Why may this game not appeal to some people? So I think one of the key things is the sheer number of tokens. It is a hugely token-driven game. Your setup is a bit of a bear because you're putting tokens together to determine the mission. You're putting tokens on your player maps. When you pull bad guys out, it's tokens that are driving that. And sometimes mid-mission, new things happen which switch the tokens that you're using. So you're constantly got a kind of supply of tokens. Now, this is a kind of test production copy. I don't know what the insert's going to look like on the new one, but you're going to need to have a fairly decent storage solution for all these tokens, and that can be a little bit off-putting for some people. The other thing is maybe the fact that this is a purely campaign-driven game is not going to be for everybody, and I think that is one of the things as well, is that you are going to play through all 9 missions in this game. There's no ability to one-shot a scenario. I'm sure you can if you keep track of stuff, but because it's built in such a way that it gets progressively more difficult with each mission that you play, you can't suddenly decide that I'm going to go into mission 4, because you would have to have a certain number of items to do that. So it would be nice to see the ability to one-shot scenarios, and I think that would provide some additional kind of replayability there. There is a major plot twist that happens that maybe stops you kind of potentially doing that for some scenarios, because something happens, and I'm not going to spoil the surprise, which means that that may not be viable to do it for later missions. So be aware that this is a purely campaign-driven game, and that's okay, because each mission is going to take around about 2, maybe a little bit longer hours to complete. As I say, I think there's 9 missions. In reality, it's going to take you around about 20-25 hours to play that, so a couple of hours per mission. So that's a long time to invest in a game, and that's okay, that's fine. It's not like Gloomhaven levels of 90 hours, but each time you sit down to play it, be aware you're going to have to give yourself a couple of hours to play this particular game, and again, that's okay, because the story is so engaging and so involving that you want to keep playing the game. I think the other thing as well is your enjoyment of this game is going to come largely how much you enjoy dice, basically, and dice-based games. Do you like luck in your games? Because this game, there are mitigation strategies with the various kind of equipments and items that you can get, and how the baddies work and how you work, and the various cards you're going to draw out of there. But bear in mind, it is a dice-based game. Your combat, which is the largest part of the game, is going to be dependent on these dice. And let me tell you, these dice are brutal. They're not, this is not a walk in the park game. It provides a significant challenge. You've got to make sure that your characters have enough equipment and abilities to kind of overcome bad die rolls, and bad die rolls will happen. They will happen for you, they will happen for the bad guys. There are some bad guys and you'll think, wow, I breezed through that Bennett Lackey, but the second Bennett Lackey on the board just keeps knocking me for 6. So you've got to be aware that it is by and large a dice-based game, and if that is your thing, so if something like Too Many Bones doesn't appeal to you because it is dice-based game, then maybe the Ghosts Betwixt isn't for you, because dice-based games aren't for everybody. So when we look at that, there's a few other things, and I think these are minor things when you think about these player boards. These are pre-production copies, as I say, because you're putting a number of tokens and cards on these boards. Things tend to slide around a little bit, and keeping track of those tokens is a little bit kind of, as I mentioned earlier, a little bit of a bind. But I forgive the game all that, because the adventure, the sense of excitement, the amount of love, thought, depth of play that goes into this game, it's so much more than just entering a room and battling. I'm involved and brought into the story. I want to see this adventure out. I want to understand what happens to this family as they go through this whole kind of thing at this house with the House of Terror, World of Terrors. I want to have the abilities to make my family members stronger. I want to see them get better weapons, and I can see from the cards that are available, and I haven't shown you half of the cards that you can get, that you unlock certain packs and certain decks and certain equipment, which get stronger and progressively stronger as you go through the game. I want to be able to kind of get more involved with things like picking the right weapons that have the right kind of conditions, so whether that's poison or fire or water, which can cause different kind of damage effects for bad guys and for yourselves as well. I think that's just so exciting. The key thing for me, the absolute key thing for me, is the strategic and combat depth in this game. You see, combat in games can be tricky. You look at a game like Too Many Bones and you have your grid, sort of 6x6 grid, whatever it is, and your restricted movement on there. But it overcomes that by having kind of dynamic bad guys and dynamic RPG style characters that are fighting the bad guys, and therefore you can, use the environment to the best of your. You can maximize the environment to help you out, or you can use your various abilities in Too Many Bones and mix and match them between the various gear locks and kind of achieve results that way. The Ghosts Betwixt kind of borrows heavily from that. I would say it's more of an homage. It's not a rip-off by any stretch of the imagination. It's an homage to that. You have this grid-based system, and it's dynamic because depending on the map you're fighting on, it can depend on how many squares you've got on there. But the abilities of your characters are really key. But one of the key things, and I can't stress this enough, is the ability to position right for your characters, have positional play, and maybe you kind of sacrificing a few hits with one character to get another character behind a bad guy to do a blindside attack, which gives you an upgraded hit die, and so this positional play becomes really, really important. Things like obstacles in the room, how do you overcome those? How do you move around those? Can you hit creatures through those? Are there flying creatures? Are they creatures working in tandem? Are they focusing just on one particular person? And every time I go into combat in this game, I kind of take 5 minutes. I look at the board, I look at where my characters are, I look at what abilities I've got and what abilities the bad guys have got, and I'm trying to work out this game plan beforehand, and I find that really, really, really exciting. And I would say more so than most of the games I played, that kind of the positional play in the Ghosts Betwixt is just a fantastic element that really shines in this game. Okay, so final thoughts on the Ghosts Betwixt. Now I hope throughout this entire kind of review you've seen that I've tried to be balanced and I've tried to be objective, despite the fact I've been liaising with Dustin over the best part of the year on this game. I think it is an exceptional experience. I think that one of the key things that this has as a campaign game is a narrative that you actually care about. It's got an emergent storyline, it's got a divergent storyline, it's got dynamic map tile placement, it's got the ability to level up your characters in a far more in-depth way than the artwork shows. It's got the wonderful artwork, it's got these great dice, it's got so many things going for it, it's got a campaign I actually want to see through to its conclusion. We know that these days as board gamers we get overwhelmed by campaign style games, and therefore we probably all own plenty of campaign games that we haven't finished and probably never will finish. I'll guarantee you that if you're bought into the Ghosts Betwixt, you're going to want to finish that story. You're going to want to get to the end of chapter 1. I think as a first-time game from Dustin, and I just think it's an absolute work of art. It's absolutely genius. Some of the things that he's done here in terms of the combat, as I mentioned, this positional play, is like it's cream of the crop stuff. It's stuff that you would expect from a far more experienced designer and maybe publisher, because that positional play is just the key to having the most fun in combat. Don't just go in there willy-nilly. Plan your moves. Try to maximise against the bad guys. Try to understand what those bad guys can do. And some of the bigger monsters, I'm not going to talk about Granny Bennett's, well I will a little bit, but she's got teleportation. She moves around the bloody room, and that's a good thing. At the end of it, at the end of each mission, there is a big fight as well. So just sometimes when you think things are over, it comes and kicks you in the ass and say, actually, we ain't finished yet. And your characters can get knocked back and they can all get knocked out, and that can have a massive effect on you. The ability to upgrade your characters is really, really good. And you don't start to see those benefits until maybe, in mission 2, mission 3, when suddenly, you've upgraded a couple of abilities. You've got better access to weapons. You've got better access to certain cards. And you're thinking, hold on a second, my character is starting to feel powered up now. That progressive ability to power up your characters is really, really, really strong. There's so much to like about this game that absolutely for me overcomes those mild negatives. As I mentioned, you know, if you don't like dice games, then this may not be the game for you. I love dice-based games. I love Too Many Bones, and I love this. I love this for the fact that, you know, these dice, as good as they are, can be absolutely brutal as well. That can cause a bit of a loop sometimes in some combat, but, you know, eventually somebody's going to win that combat, or you change your strategy to adapt to that. So the positional play, the dice play, I think, you know, it works really well, but those dice may not work for everybody. I say my kind of major concern, and for me it's not a concern because I understand why it's there. It's just the number of tokens. It takes a while to set the game up and put the game away, so make sure you've got an effective kind of storage solution. In terms of replayability, you know, as I mentioned, it is a purely campaign driven game. There's no ability to one shot any scenario in this. I'm sure you could adapt it yourself and do that, but coming out of the box there's no ability to one shot any scenario. So that can be, you know, those are kind of things that may not work for some people there. For me, I overcome all of those because I'm loving the story. I'm loving the adventure. I love the mission book. I love the variety of monsters. I love the quick start rules, which really allow you to get the game going quickly. I love the fact that I'm invested in my characters, in a story that makes sense, that carries through. And I love that twist that comes at some point in the game as well. And I was speaking to Dustin about it when it happened the other day, and was like, yes, this is great. And it makes me want to play this game more. So, The Ghosts Betwixt by Dustin Freund. Believe what you may have read about this game before. Believe what you've seen about this game. I think, you know, if you backed it at Kickstarter, you're in for an absolute treat. If you didn't back it at Kickstarter and you get the ability to buy that, and I don't know if it's going to retail or whether you'll be able to buy it direct from Dustin, then it's something. If you love dungeon crawlers, if you love that old school feel, if you love an involved story, you want a game that hasn't got loads of minis and has got standees as well, then this is absolutely the game for you. I can't say enough good things about The Ghosts Betwixt, and that's even with some balance, and that's even taking my bias to, you know, kind of one side as well, because I think it is an absolutely fantastic game that really deserves to do very, very, very well. I can't wait for my copy to come, my proper copy to come. I can't wait to play through Chapter 1, finish Chapter 1, see where that story is, and hopefully by that point, Dustin will have developed Chapter 2 for us all to experience there. So, The Ghosts Betwixt is a stone cold recommendation from Not Board Gaming. And there we go, Not Board Gamers. Thank you very much for joining me on this journey through The Ghosts Betwixt by Dustin Freund and published by Innocent Traveller Games, an exemplary dungeon crawler which is almost exceeded any expectation that I had of it from a first-time designer and publisher. There is so much love, so much thought gone into this game. Everything about the game shines. The ability to upgrade, the combat, the positional play, the emergent, divergent, dynamic story, how Dustin has managed these branching narratives. I just think it's a work of art. It's a pure joy to play. Heartily recommended from Not Board Gaming. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey. As I say, this is Not Board Gaming. You can always follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and that's Not Board Gaming, always BORED. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos. And one final thought. If you can't find anybody else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.